Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Guys on Sports. We are back with another banger, the part 2 to our QB tiers series. Last week we did AFC East. Last week what we did was the AFC. We did every division, and we tiered our quarterbacks for the coming fantasy season. We're going to be doing the same today, but twist with the NFC. So we each have a division. We will run down the quarterbacks in that division and give them a tier ranking. And you can find a nice little graphic. Don't break the chair, Mark. Sounds like it's screaming for help. But what's going on, guys? How was your week? How do you feel about your tiers? Seeing them with your eyes. Did you guys see the graphic? Or
I saw the graphic.
Yeah. How'd you feel seeing it in real life?
It was amazing.
Did it make sense?
It made sense.
Still made sense.
We didn't get.
It was tears.
We didn't get lamb blasted. We got overall people seemed like they kind of agreed, which is always.
I was able to
positive.
follow the trail of tears.
I'm just asking if do you feel like your tiering was right? Anything stand out? Looking at it afterwards, like something wasn't right.
As a whole, everything looked fine.
Was Mahomes too low? He was out of S tier, right? Was he A?
Yeah, he was. Remember, combined because
he could be B, but
skill level he's in S, but fantasy.
Gotta make sure you know.
Yeah, fantasy.
Fantasy is an
Guys,
S
I'm not
plus this
saying-
year.
Well, that's what your thought is, but his career hasn't shown that.
What?
That he's an S plus.
That's because he hasn't had weapons like he has this year.
Oh, you're saying
Get you some Mahomes this year.
Oh yeah, it's good that you're
You feel
forecasting
strong
that.
about
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
I'm glad you feel strong about that.
yeah.
That's great. So, but without further ado, let's get right into it. We're gonna start with Rocky. Rocky, you have the NFC West. It's an interesting division as far as quarterbacks go. I'm excited to see where you go. So, tier us up.
Well, we're gonna, we're gonna say that the tiering, as we talked about, S is superior, and then it goes down from there. With like a C is kind of common, B is like a balanced quarterback, etc. And this division is interesting because it's got two guys that don't have a long history. And it's a little bit spotty. So, like, how good are they? And then you got one guy who's young but has performed, especially from a fantasy standpoint. And then one guy whose name, but who I maybe don't think is going to be quite as good from a fantasy production. So let's start.
Spence is killing us.
So let's start with everybody's favorite quarterback, Sam Darnold. When he came out, I kind of wanted him to be the Browns quarterback. I got to be honest. Yeah, I liked Sam Darnold and Josh Allen that year much more than I liked Baker Mayfield. But last year on the field, he had great stats, 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, which was more touchdowns than anybody else in this division, 66% completion rate, 138 yards rushing and a touchdown. And his fantasy production was 18.8, which made him the number 9 fantasy quarterback last year. The problem with Sam Darnold is dramatic departure from Minnesota, a team that has maybe 2 of the better receivers in the NFL, a decent running back, and a really good offensive strategy, going to Seattle, where they traded, I think, their best wide receiver in DK Metcalf. They do have talent. They do have components there that I like. But overall, because Sam Darnold doesn't have a long history as a starting quarterback, and because he's disrupted and went to a new team, I think from a fantasy level, he's a B. And if I'm being honest, I think from a skill level, he's B. And so together, easy choice. Overall, Sam Darnold ranks a B in my rating. I don't know if you want us to go hear any pushback or
if somebody has something to say, jump in.
I think it's a pretty solid evaluation. I think I don't think they lost their best wide receiver. I think that is definitely Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think Darnold, maybe Seattle had seen what Pittsburgh. They're saying Pittsburgh's going to find out with DK Metcalf going there and Aaron Rodgers now taking the helm. Aaron Rodgers really does require his wide receivers to run precise routes. It's a lot about timing with Aaron Rodgers, and DK Metcalf is more of a physical down the field presence.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have played better with Darnold because I know Darnold went downfield an awful lot last year, particularly to Jordan Addison more so than Jefferson. Jefferson was more the precise route runner. But, I think with Njigba, I think you're going to get precision. I think with Cooper Kupp, you're going to get reliable hands in the middle of the field. I think Darnold's going to I think he's probably going to be on par with what he did last year.
I mean, that's the hope. And Seattle definitely invested the money, hoping that that's what they get. And when you looked at his stats, they were impressive. I mean, on paper, he was one of the best quarterbacks until we hit the playoffs last year.
He looked a lot better than he did when he was a Jet, for sure.
For sure.
Why do you think he looks so bad in the playoff?
Because I do think that like any new quarterback or any quarterback that doesn't have a lot of history, it takes the NFL time to see what their quirks are and how do you play them. And then I think the biggest thing in the playoffs is you're playing the best teams with the best defenses. And so they're probably going to be better at dialing up something against you. But I do think Darnold does have some tells and some weaknesses. So who he was as a Jet, partly true. Went to Minnesota, they were able to work around his imperfections, but in the playoffs, kind of like maybe second-year C.J. Stroud, teams kind of, okay, I think if we do this, this works.
Minnesota was also the most fraudulent team in the playoffs last year.
Well, I will say this. I think we talked about this when the playoffs were going on. What you're saying is true. C.J. Stroud effect, people kind of learning the quarterback. But we got to remember the 3 bad games he had last year. 2 of them were against the Lions, including the playoff game. And the other one was a disciple, I think, of Johnson, of the Jets coach, Anthony, what's his name?
I know
the defensive coordinator.
Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn, yeah. He's a disciple of Aaron Glenn. So it seems to be that system that gave him an issue. He wasn't lighting the world on fire as much down the stretch, but he wasn't bad. It was the 2 Lions games, and I don't remember. We got to look this. I'll look it up while you guys are
but
talking.
I know what you're saying. Sometimes a quarterback, there's a system that beats him.
I don't think it was him, to be honest.
Second quarterback I've got, we're going to talk about is Brock Purdy. Here's a guy that, like Mr. Irrelevant, I want to root for the guy. I do think that he's a pretty decent skill. On paper, 3,800 yards, 20 touchdowns. He also has a bigger rushing component than I realized. Last year had 323 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. Overall, his fantasy points per game were 18.6, making him the 10th best quarterback. And his best year ever was 2023 when he was 19 points, 2 points per game, which was the 6th best quarterback. So he's got 2 top 10 finishes. I think from a skill level, he's a B. I think from a fantasy production, though, I had to give him an A because he had 2 top 10 finishes as a fantasy QB. But overall, I would still rank him as a B quarterback, a balanced quarterback. I think that there are some questions about the receiving core in San Fran. They lost, I'm blanking on his name, lost a wide receiver that they traded.
Who are we talking about?
San Francisco.
Debo Samuel.
Debo, thank you. They lost Debo, still have Ayuk, and they do have components, some up-and-coming receivers that we liked. We do think CMC is going to come back next year or this year, and I do think he's going to have a decent season if he stays healthy. So he's got components I like, but I still would say overall he's more of a balanced quarterback.
Okay. Just to give you more context on the Darnold, I looked it up. So the last 5 weeks of the season, including the playoff game, which he was terrible in, he still put up 3 top 10 performances. So he had a 7-point performance against the Lions and a 12-point performance against your Bears. But that was sandwiched in between a 35-point performance, 23 and 26 points, fantasy points, respectively. So I think it was a little overblown, and it was more about just the media story about if they're going to pay him or not. He got paid. I think he's going to continue to play well. I mean, if you look through his game log all season, outside of those weeks, pretty much 20 points, 18 points, 21, 25. I mean, I would have him solidly probably in the A tier with this.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that there's reason to feel that way. There's not a lot of history, and I think if he were staying with Minnesota, 100%, I would have put him in that A category because I like their system, I like their coaching. Seattle, I don't know. I want to see what happens.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
Well,
next,
for Purdy,
good.
hopefully he doesn't have the bag syndrome since he just got paid. And then Inuk not being there. Well, he's there, but he was injured, so he's gonna
He's probably not coming back till midseason.
You just don't know. I still think he's an A, but I would have him be a lower part of the A just based on the injuries.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
To me, he's I don't know. I get scared of quarterbacks like him because there's no rushing upside. So, like, if he's just having a bad day, I feel like I'm screwed. I like quarterbacks to kind of that could make things happen even when they're
City
not
almost
throwing
had
the ball
400
out.
yards rushing.
Yeah, he
though,
did,
right?
and 5 touchdowns, which
Did
was
he?
surprising. Yeah, it was
5
surprising.
touchdowns.
Crap.
Yeah.
323 yards and 5 touchdowns. But I think part of that
Slap me. Call me stupid.
Part of that last year was there was no CMC, and the backfield was kind of hit or miss. Some games they produced, some games they didn't produce. So he may have felt like he had to run more.
The 5 touchdowns to me is wild because
Yeah,
I don't
that's
see him. I don't see
It's not
him
elusive. You wouldn't
running vulturing any from that backfield. Even if it was Mason or Guerrendo, I still feel like they would have gone with any of those guys.
They're
from the
probably
goal line.
scrambles. That's what's crazy about
Yeah.
it. And I don't remember a bunch of them.
Is he a tall guy for QB sneaks?
No.
No, he's not particularly. I mean, like if you look at him, everything about him, he's a balance. Like he's balanced. He's good in everything, not
He's like
great in
6'2",
anything.
6'1", they have him at here, so
Yeah.
probably 6 foot.
Yeah, doesn't have the strongest arm, but he's accurate. Like
He's got to be the highest paid Mr. Irrelevant now in NFL history too. I would imagine.
Oh, like actual last pick?
Actual
Yeah.
last pick.
He's
Yeah.
got to be because I mean, how many of them are even still in the league?
No.
I don't know.
Can't be many,
They get
And
their
I'm
parade and leave.
well, and I do like I think he's a QB that if anything, the money I expect him to have worked harder because of it. Because I think his entire existence has been to prove people that he's better than what he is.
What they think, yeah.
My question is, okay, what about Sam Darnold? He just got paid.
Yeah.
So like, what happens? Is he still got that fire, or is he like, dude, Southern California?
He's made money though. His rookie
Well,
contract,
his
he was
rookie,
a high
yeah, he
pick,
was. You're right.
and then he signed with them on a 1 year.
Because he was the second quarterback off the board that year. It was
Yeah,
him, Darnold, and then
It was
Allen.
Baker,
Baker,
Darnold.
Darnold, and then Allen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he made money. I don't think.
Third quarterback in this division, a big name, Matt Stafford. Definitely on the tail end, starting to wind down a little bit. Still had almost 3,800 yards, 66% completion, only 20 touchdowns, and only rushed for 41 yards and 1 touchdown. Last year, 13.9 fantasy points per game.
Yeah,
His highest, he had 2 really solid years. Last year, he finished number 26th in quarterback for fantasy, but he did have years 2019 where he was 21.4 for 4th best quarterback, and 2021 where he was 20.4, number 11. And I still think that like if you're talking about skill level, a quarterback who knows what he's doing, he might be an S. But fantasy, last year 13.9 points a game. He was a C. He was common. And so this year, I don't think I could give him anything but a B as an overall fantasy prospect.
That's not even a C. That's more of like an F for last year. If your quarterback's only getting you 13 points a game,
Yeah.
fine.
I mean,
he
was
had 7 starts under 10 fantasy points.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go
Yeah.
C. He's
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
like
again,
49 yards rushing. I mean, like he under your breath you said statue.
Yeah.
Like he literally
yeah.
just stands there with the ball.
and we love Matt Stafford on this one.
Well-
we love him here.
And that's the thing. He's a lot like Patrick Mahomes. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes played like an A or a B last year. But there's potential because we know he's got the skill and he could have the receivers. That's like the reason why I gave him a B is I do have faith in Sean, his coach. I do think.
Friend, Sean?
Oh, we're great friends. We were drinking bourbon the other night.
Nice.
I do think he's going to get the most out of the receivers that are left in L.A. And I do feel like he is somebody who, if he catches fire, he can throw or he can have top 15, top 10%.
It's tough. Yeah. What you have him at?
B, overall B.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then my favorite quarterback, and this is shocking for me to say, although we do have a graphic of my short kings, and that is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, almost 3,900 yards, 69% completion rate with almost an 8-yard per pass average. 21 TDs, so a little bit low there, but then he combined it with almost 600 yards rushing and another 4 touchdowns, averaged 18.1 fantasy point, finished as a number 12 quarterback. And he had 2 years, 2020, where he was 24.4, which was number 3, and 2021, where he was 22.2, which was number 4. I love his setup. I love Marvin Harrison. I love the secondary receivers in Arizona. I like Trey McBride. I don't dislike James Conner. I think he's a solid running back. I think what it comes down to with Kyler is if he stays healthy, he's a stud. I have him as a skill of an S at quarterback. Fantasy tier as an A because he's got 2 top 5 finishes and 1 almost 10. So overall, I rated Kyler as an A tier quarterback.
I think having Kyler Murray as an S tier quarterback is wild.
I think
It's nuts out of your
That
mind.
is
I think
super
his
generous.
No, it's his skill.
What's his skill?
Fantasy, as a fantasy producer,
No,
which
you
is what
said
we're talking
skill.
about. Skill, he's fast, he's accurate, he's got great
You're
timing.
confusing me because you've been saying you've been rating quarterbacks as a quarterback and then fantasy.
Right, as a quarterback,
You got him S tier.
I am S tier.
That's nuts.
He's
That's
fast.
crazy.
The only knock against him is he's 5'10".
No, that's not the only knock against him.
What else is he?
He's very inconsistent.
I mean, 2 top 5
But then
fantasy finishes.
you're going back and forth between fantasy and regular football. Are we talking fantasy or are we talking regular football?
I knew this tiering system was going to bite us
you're
in the
fly- you are.
behind.
You're saying that he has the skills of an S.
I think he's got the skills of an
Right,
X
and I
and
said
the production.
He's inconsistent. And you said, well, top
So
two
you're
fantasy.
calling him Peyton Manning. You're calling him Tom Brady. You're calling him.
I think when you look at, I do listen. I've never been the biggest Kyler fan.
Seriously,
Looking
I don't
at
like
his
it.
seasons, where's his gap?
I like him, but
He's
I don't
inconsistent.
see him
That's
you
what
can't
I
read a
mean.
defense.
But why is he inconsistent? Is it the players that were around him? A bad
think he's
setup?
had-
A bad offensive line?
3,800 yards.
He's injury
21
prone.
touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That is super mediocre. That's Daniel Jones' rookie season in
Black
14
Ops
games.
7 comes out this year. That's going to hurt him.
Could be. You're right about that. That is a gap in his performance. Is what video game? You know,
I don't think you're off on the fantasy part. I'm just saying, calling him an S tier quarterback is kind of crazy.
I listen. I looked at it, and to me,
I don't know what you're seeing. You still haven't said.
I'm seeing a fast quarterback
tea leaves.
who's
that's it?
very accurate, who is able to elude behind an okay line, who's got Marvin Harrison, who's got Trey McBride, who's got a good running back and a good secondary.
That's
running
correct.
back.
So what would you rate Jalen Hurts then?
Jalen Hurts on a skill level.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because if they're your
thankfully, I don't
if
gotta
they're
do
your
that.
qualifications,
well, he's asking you. Yeah?
that would
So
I
on a
respect
skill-
it. I respect it.
On a
You-
skill level, I don't think he's as accurate as Kyler Murray. I don't think he's as fast as Kyler Murray. I think he's bigger, right? And the tush push.
I don't think Murray's thrown for more than 4,000 yards in his career.
I think he's been injured in many seasons.
He's been injured in 2.
Yeah, he's missed multiple games.
Yeah, I don't get that's just crazy.
I don't have my computer, so you'd have to tell me. Yeah, I mean,
telling
listen,
you.
I'm fine. You guys pushing back. I know
I
this.
think the fantasy is fun.
After
even though
this,
I think it's
he's a
little
guy
overall.
that I'm probably gonna look for in fantasy.
After this, I wanna draft with you tonight while you're still high on him because he's coming off the board super early. It sounds like.
Yeah, no, Drew's 7-year career, he missed one whole season, basically. He's never thrown for 4,000 yards.
I mean, at the end of the year, he
But
finally
he's missed games, I believe, in
Harrison.
every season.
No, I'm looking at a season right here. He played every 17 games in 2020,
17 games in 2020. That was
17 games in 2019. 2021, he played 14.
See how jacked Harrison is? They showed him.
yeah, I did,
He's
yeah.
like freaking
yeah.
Bill. That's all he did.
2022, he played 11.
So he missed 3 games one year, 6 games another year.
Hey,
Yeah,
here's
but
what
the entire
years
season.
he's
I
still
hope
gonna-
it hits, and I hope you continue to stand on the Kyler Murray soapbox
Well,
because you
the
will
good-
be the only analyst
And he played
that has
17
ever
The
Played
good thing
17
is
last year,
I
too.
could stand on
attribute him in
I
S
could
tier.
stand on him because I could probably reach his shoulders
He
pretty
is
easily.
your soapbox.
He
Yeah.
played
Not
17
busy.
last year, though, with the same skill guys. 3,800 yards,
Yeah, but
21 and
okay,
11.
you're saying he never threw for 4,000. He ran almost 3,900 last year. I mean, I get
Well,
it.
yeah, but
I get it.
4,000 is like you're talking about a guy being S tier. 4,000
4,000
is like not even a dog.
4,000 is less average than we think anymore. The only quarterback in this division that threw for over 4,000 last year was Sam Darnold.
Yeah, well, who's in this division? Brock Purdy,
Matt Stafford.
Matt Stafford sucked last year. He did.
He did.
Okay. Let's see in the other divisions
look at
how many
Stafford's number.
guys threw for 4,000
Just
yards.
because you threw an S on him, why are you throwing S? That's crazy.
Listen, you should
S
be
is like you're saying he's Burrow,
Listen.
Lamar.
you should be sitting on my lap and kissing me because I'm putting a guy in your stature. Well, actually, a guy that towers over you as an S level quarterback.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because the Browns drafted Dylan Gabriel, who is also 5'10". Maybe I'm overstating the short king
Maybe
this
you
year.
are. I
In
don't
this
know.
scenario, is he sitting forward on your lap or is he facing you to kiss you when he's on your lap?
I mean, I'm open to either, I guess.
Okay,
right.
so where you put him in A tier, though, right? I
Yeah,
just wanna-
overall fantasy, my expectation this year in fantasies will be an A quarterback.
I don't disagree with that because the rushing upside is obviously
I
there.
think, yeah, I see that too.
Harrison takes a leap forward. Harrison is going to have an explosive year if he
Damn
stays
right.
healthy.
Damn right.
So I don't disagree with the A. The S is what totally threw.
I'm
at
okay.
first I thought you were joking at first.
That's is why.
I'm
know it's
okay.
crazy.
Listen, no.
You're
short-
fighting the good fight right now,
My
but you-
short king.
Yeah. I know.
My short. I think we've got a stat of me. I think he is my short
You like
king
short
on there.
guys, yeah.
What keeps him
Well,
from
no,
S
that's
tier?
that's Jameer, on
Jameer
there.
Gibbs, yeah. What?
What keeps him from an S?
I mean,
S
to
tier
be
from
fair,
fantasy?
Yeah, why is he not an S tier in fantasy?
to be
I think
fair,
he's a better fantasy quarterback than a real quarterback.
well, to
He's
be
been
fair
like,
with
what,
what he's
third?
saying, he did have multiple years where he didn't get past. Like to me, a S tier quarterback has to throw around 30 or more touchdowns,
He's never
and
done
he's
that.
he's never done that. So that's where he came down some. And the component that I love about him, his rushing ability, he is short, and so if he runs too much, I do think there he is.
he gets banged up.
He
That's
could get.
Jameer
That's
Gibbs.
Jameer
Oh,
Gibbs.
wow,
Wow, it's not.
I'm not going to say
Yeah,
something.
let's not don't. All right, so I'll move
Jameer
right
Gibbs,
on to
Kyler
the,
Murray.
to the NFC East, and I will start with Jaden Daniels. I want to tear this guy down so bad because he's in my division.
Tear him down.
I don't think he's going to be as good as last year. They did bring in Debo. They're going to get things done. They're going to work things to Debo. But what I think keeps him S tier for me, he finished top 5, I think, last season, at least total points. I didn't look at points per game. But I think their defense was smoke and mirrors last year. I don't know how they did it with their defense. I don't think their defense is very good. I don't think that they added enough to make them good. I think their defense will get exposed. And I think they're going to be playing from behind a lot. He'll have a lot of opportunity. The rushing upside is there. And I still think he finishes within like that top 7 quarterbacks, injuries notwithstanding. So Jaden Daniels, S tier. I'll move right on to Russie. If Russie winds up starting the whole year, I have him B tier. Last season, he averaged 16 points a game. this year, I think he does have a better wide receiver one. I
Plays
think he
the
has
whole
a better
season.
offensive coach. If he plays, when he does play, I think he can count up for 15 to 17 points. So he's B tier for me. You know where you're getting with him. I don't think you're starting him, but he's like a bye week guy. Jalen Hurts, I keep him at S tier as long as the tush push is there. I think you got to kind of write him in there with Penn because he's going to get his touches at the goal line. They got enough playmakers around him. He'll be effective. We've seen it 2 years already. I don't think it changes. And to make this nice, short and sweet, the last one is Dak Prescott, who I think is being undervalued. Year before last, he was QB3, QB2 in some formats. I think he's an A tier coming into the season. I could easily put him at S tier if he looks good in camp. I'm just worried about the injury. But for me, if he's healthy, he's S tier. With Pickens coming into town, I feel like he's super undervalued.
I feel like he is too. I actually think out of this entire division, I think Dak Prescott has the highest ceiling when it comes to fantasy points. Getting George Pickens in there as his wide receiver too, still having Jalen Tolbert there, Ferguson at tight end. If this group of running backs is as dynamic pass catching as they are touted to be, Prescott is going to have a ridiculous year, and he is going super late. He is like the 14th, 15th quarterback off the board.
He's
it's
overlooked.
crazy.
He's overlooked, and I can't figure it out. I do agree with you on Pickens. I think with CD and Pickens, I mean, are they maybe the third or fourth best wide receiver core in the league?
On paper.
Yeah, on paper. And I like the running back situation. I love Blue coming
That's
out of
what I had
college.
questions about. Yeah, Blue looks good.
Yeah, he looks good, and I think that he did prove he could catch well. I think he might be the closest thing to a Zeke in both running and catching that he's had in a while.
Yeah.
So,
And the other mention that I want here, I know you were looking for reasons to tear Jaden Daniels down.
Yeah.
It's difficult to do with a guy that has obvious rushing upside, right? He does seem a little slight in the figure, so maybe he takes a bad hit and he's injured for a little bit. Believe it or not, I think a couple of things that are overlooked here. Yes, they brought in Deebo Samuel. We've been telling you for years, Deebo Samuel is nothing more than a name. This guy is someone that they try to get the ball to around the line of scrimmage. He's not a great route runner. He's not a guy that's going to work himself free down the field. They had two key departures, believe it or not, because they were Jaden Daniels' escape routes when he was scrambling either right or left, and that was Diami Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus. Both of these guys would release, and he would find these guys downfield. Let's not forget how many bombs contributed to Jaden Daniels' rookie season. There were a lot, including the Hail Mary against Chicago, which is the reason why I do want to tear him down because that was ridiculous.
I'm just saying.
well,
I still think the opportunity is going to be there for him to score his points.
well, and I disagree with you. Like, I agree on the Diami Brown. He's underappreciated wide receiver who I think has every component to taking a step forward this year on his new team. I get what you're saying about Deebo, and I don't think Deebo is a superior, but I don't know that he's worse than the other two last year. He's just different. So if they figure out, if they use him the way San Fran did that one season, I still think he's competent. And I think you've got Scary Terry there.
That's the fantasy kiss of death. When you say that one season, that means stay away from that guy, especially when he's been in the league for 6 of them.
You got a sign? You trying to?
No, that actually
You
wasn't.
coming at me, I say?
That wasn't.
Okay. Just to make the last point on Dak here. That season, the one before last when he got hurt, 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, 9 picks, and 2 rushing touchdowns to boot. He's just solid, man, and he's doing this 240. Like, you don't have to worry about the rushing because he's just going to throw the ball all over the place. And I'm looking at the game logs. Like, we're over 35 attempts almost every game. And I think it's going to be the same.
Crazy thing about Dallas, everybody talks about how Green Bay's done a really good job drafting quarterbacks. I don't know, Dallas had Tony Romo, which I know love him or hate him. The guy was consistent,
No, he was
really
good.
good. And then you got Dak. Like, they've done a good job of finding Dak. I think he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
3rd round, yeah.
Yeah.
Aikman, Stahlback.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
had a nice little gap in between there.
They did, but they've done pretty well
Good old
recently.
days.
How long has Dak been there?
He's been there
Wow,
probably
now.
7 seasons now.
I think he
something
came
like
out
I
the
think
year
it's
before
longer.
Baker.
2016. So
They're still
9.
9.
Pretty solid 4 more years of prime easy.
Yeah.
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 So what say you, Charlie, about this division? You like the way they?
I think it pans out pretty well.
Yeah.
I can't really argue with much.
Not much to argue with.
No.
How many yards did Jalen throw for last year?
Jaden?
No, Jalen Hurts.
Jalen.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me look.
I feel like I said that 3 times.
You said it? I mean, their names are pretty close. Sorry. We were just talking about Jalen, so you just kind of jumped to Jalen there.
But if they go Russell, I think Russell's C. I don't think he had him at B. I don't think he's a B.
I think he's somebody who he'll be benched by game 4 or 5.
No. That's crazy.
I think Russ provides consistency behind the line there until
Consistency for what? So, what do you think the upside for the Giants this year?
I don't think there is an upside. I
So
think
then
what he's
why
going to
don't you?
do.
So then why don't you bench him and let your rookie start to see what you got?
Yardage? 2,900.
To learn.
Wow, Jalen, man, I would not have guessed it was that little.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that is crazy. All right, so I guess I
A
got
lot there, yeah.
I guess I have the. Last week I had the worst division in football with the AFC South, and this week I have the second worst division in football, which is the NFC South. So I guess let's start off with the dumpster fire down there in the great Royce Duplessis-led city of New Orleans.
Love you.
And let's go with this
Chase
Tyler.
never met.
He's never
Duplicit.
never met a billboard of Royce Duplessis.
Yeah.
Oh man, you are missing out, buddy. He
he's
is
a
cleaning
legend
up
in
the
New Orleans.
main streets.
New Orleans.
of New Orleans.
I
He
hate
actually
this.
just recently
So bad to me.
New Orleans.
he just recently said something in the media too about cleaning up the streets. I almost sent it to you guys. Like that's
He needs to
that's
clean
hysterical.
up the streets because I never seen a city that overall smells like shame and piss.
Well, I mean,
Marijuana.
I talked to somebody from New Orleans, and they made it make sense for me.
Well, the hurricane did.
They just can't. They can't. There's too many people on Bourbon Street drinking and eating all. They can't really clean it in these. He said when when COVID happened, it was like a dream. It smelled great down there, but we were there. It was pretty ridiculous.
Oh man, it was like it was like pot, piss,
Puke.
puke.
When we went to the Cafe Du Monde for the beignets, I don't know how people were sitting outside eating those things. The smell was atrocious.
Sewage.
Hot sewage
Yeah.
below a beignet.
But hey,
eatery. It was
we
ridiculous.
digress. Royce
Yeah,
is
Royce is a
fixing.
great
He's
guy.
fixing the
He
city.
is fixing it. You know
Something
what?
else.
However, Royce obviously does not own or control this team, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Tyler, how are we saying his name? Shaq, Schloff, Shuck.
Shuck is how it's pronounced.
I'm gonna say show.
Yeah, it's whatever it is. Whatever.
Spelled show, but it's pronounced Shuck.
But I'm gonna say show.
What's
Yeah, I'm
his maiden
fine.
name?
Maiden name.
He's got to
yeah.
be better than that.
Royce.
Shuffle? I don't know.
And however you say it, he's an F. He's an F through and through. I think skill wise, he's an F. I think his
Let the guy throw the ball.
I think his skill set's enough. I think him coming into this system, I think they are a dumpster fire. I don't see it getting much better. You have Chris Olave. There's still a lot of question marks. Now, mind you, I've been drafting Chris Olave a lot because I think he is the only legitimate wide receiver threat there, and I think he will get his fair share of targets, provided that he still doesn't have this lingering issue with the concussion that kept him out, I think, the last 8 weeks of the season,
What
which
about,
was just crazy. Rashid Shaheed.
That guy.
He's a down the field flyer.
UCF kid, right?
Ted Ginn.
I don't know. He is like a Ted Ginn, but I don't know. I don't know that Shuck's gonna have. I don't know that Shuck is gonna have a good rookie season. Alvin Kamara is gonna get him out of a lot of sticky
If
situations.
he's not suspended.
I think Kamara is the guy to
That's right. He
own.
hasn't served that yet.
Yeah,
has he?
no, it's still under. They said it might be this year.
Who's is the backup running back still Kendra Miller?
Kendra
They
Miller.
drafted Devin Neal too.
Devin Neal, you're right,
From
yeah.
from Kansas.
Yep. Well, I think you were high on Devin Neal.
No.
I had him as my pick
Okay.
Yeah.
in the draft.
Yeah. So there it is. Shuck, Shaw, Shuv, Shoo, whoever the hell he is. F.
Wow.
Let's move into a couple of youngsters here. One of them being a guy that I'm a little bit higher on, Michael Penix. He, to me, is a C tier quarterback. But I think by the end of the year, he can probably swing momentum going towards a B. Why? Because he's got Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. He's got 3 really good receivers at their positions. Kyle Pitts, we know year after year, he's the guy that keeps biting everybody in the butt. But the guy does run pretty good routes. His hands have been a little suspect in very opportune times. However, I think Penix, along with the rushing upside that Penix brings in and how dynamic Bijan Robinson.
Can we say Penix?
It's Penix.
Can we say Penix?
No, there's no 2 ends. It's one end. It's Michael Penix.
I think it's peanuts and the T is silent.
Anyway.
No, Penix, because the AI is maybe not going to be able to distinguish that you're saying Penix, whatever you're saying.
So we have to say Penix?
Yeah.
Why is penis isn't a bad word if we say that though, right?
I don't know. Man.
All right. Anyway, all right, fine. Michael, let's call him Michael.
I can't promote this episode.
So Bijan should be one of the top 3 people off of your fantasy board, period. And with that being said, not just for his rushing upside, the guy is a monster when it comes to receiving. And Tyler Algier is not too many levels below him.
He's maybe to me, he might be the best backup in the league.
Yeah, so I think Michael is set up for
1,200 yards is only your starting.
Instant success here early in the season, and I think he's only going to hone his craft, and by the end of the season, he could be winning you some games, getting you towards the playoffs. Next guy I'll touch on here is Bryce Young. I think we saw what happened to Bryce Young after the benching, right? I think that really lit a fire. I think him getting back into the starting lineup was actually his bag. That is, I don't think he needed to get paid. I think he needed that humbling. And then I think it also took some pressure off him, right? Because he's not been an outwardly cocky or arrogant guy. I think, honestly, there was a lot of pressure on him. When they sat him, he was able to kind of, reel it in, focus, see what was important, came out completely different person. I do like the fact that he is a little elusive. He does actually remind me of Jaden Daniels with the body type, and he is a little bit shorter. That scares me, but I think they have dynamic weapons all over the field. Xavier Legette, do not sleep on him. You were getting him in the very last rounds of drafts and best ball leagues. Xavier Legette is a guy to target. McMillan, if McMillan lives up to the billing, he is supposed to be one of the next great wide receivers in this league. You have Jatavion Sanders, who I think is like 8'14" and like 400 pounds of solid muscle. That's a ridiculous weapon to have as a young quarterback. And of course, they have, again, very dynamic pass catching backs. Chuba Hubbard, and they brought in Rico Dowdle too. So I think Young has a pretty optimistic outlook on the season, but again, a C. Now we're going to talk about the Browns' greatest regret.
Your long lost love.
And that's Baker Mayfield.
Everything you could have
For
had.
me, there is no reason to believe that this guy is anything but an S. Skill level, even an S, an A to an S skill level, fantasy-wise, blatant S.
Oh, he's an S in fantasy.
There's no reason to believe that he can't replicate last year's numbers, which was 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. He also surprisingly ran for another 400 yards, just about another 3 touchdowns. So he was responsible for 44 total tutties. The offense, to me, looks better this year. So you have Mike Evans coming back. He's going for what, like season 12 or 13 of 1,000 yards, right?
11.
Evans is always solid. Godwin hopefully can come back from that freak injury where he had no business even being in the game when it happened. Killed a lot of my teams last year. You have Godwin coming back. Ibuka, they say, is just a freak in nature. They're saying that this is the greatest guy in any camp right now to look at going forward for fantasy football. Ibuka is going super, super low in drafts. He's going way lower than that dancing freak that they drafted in Jacksonville. So I think Ibuka is going to be another guy that pairs well with Mike Evans downfield. Then, of course, you have Cade Otton and, of course, Bucky Irvin and Rashad White. It's when you have freakish numbers like 4,500 and 44 total tutties, instantly everybody says regression. I don't think so. I don't see any reason to believe that he cannot replicate these numbers, especially in this division.
I don't disagree with you at all from a fantasy standpoint. Baker is an S. And honestly, I think they played from behind last year some, and I think they're going to play from behind again this year. I agree with you. Emeka is showing out in camp. In fact, there have been whispered rumors that Tampa Bay might trade a Chris Godwin because Emeka has showed out so much. Emeka is JSN with a little bit more speed. I agree with everything you're saying. The fact that you put Baker as an S in skill is laughable.
May I remind you
No,
that
it's
he
not.
put Kyler Murray as an
Kyler
S.
Murray there.
Kyler Murray is
It's ridiculous.
Is an athletic freak. Baker Mayfield
That's all
runs
you
a
care about.
5'6".
An
all
athletic,
you
He's a
care about.
5'6" in the
That-
40.
athletic freak. You're out of
As
your
long as
mind.
I'm-
Kyler
knowing
Murray is incredibly
Is
fast
that
as a
all you
quarterback.
look at?
You
It's
are
part of it.
You are.
Well, you're like the whole thing with Kyler was that he's fast. That's all you kept saying.
Jay is Baker an S in skill.
Yes.
Okay, so then I say
There
you
is-
think he's an S.
I think he teeters between A and S. It's close.
Yes, to me, I'm fine with saying he's an A. I'm not
think
fine
he's close
saying
to
he's
that.
an
I
S.
mean,
Plus,
It's
plus he
'cause
has the
you're-
mentality. He's a winner. He wants to win. He wants to prove the world wrong. That's something to me I don't think Kyler has either if you go with the mental
Yeah, I
part
think
of the
that's
game.
fair, and I do think that Baker he's improved. Another guy who getting
He's
humbled.
improved. I mean, he
Getting
arguably-
humbled in with the Rams,
Yeah.
getting humbled in Carolina. He did fixate and say, "I want to show what I can do." I do think he is.
He showed out in Carolina too. He had a
he
crummy
did,
team.
He did not show out in Carolina.
He did
looked
for that
better.
Carolina.
He looked better in the Rams than he did in Carolina.
What year
But
did he play with Carolina?
He played
I
for
forget.
Carolina and the Rams in the same year.
No.
3 years ago.
Yeah, he got cut.
Yeah.
He got
I'm saying,
cut.
But he played a full season with Carolina first.
He didn't start a full season. He only played.
Yeah, it was the season where it was him, Darnold, and somebody else.
But he is a different quarterback. He has matured. He's less cocky as he was.
I get
in
it.
the
You have
Browns.
not
He's
had a
30 years
quarterback.
old.
You have not had
Yeah,
a
he's
quarterback
older than what you
since
think.
him.
He graduated, I think, at 25. Though.
I get it. You have the ex-wife mentality here. He is the husband that was making all the money. That found someone better.
He's agreeing
He moved
with you.
on.
I mean, you're just trying to.
I'm agreeing with you, and
No,
I'm
he said
gonna.
he's not an S.
He said he's close.
And now you're
He's
offensive
close.
because you said Kyler
I mean,
Murray
him
is
saying
much
he's
better.
close is a win for me.
But let me double down and say I don't believe Tampa ever wins the Super Bowl with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield.
That's crazy
because
to me.
Baker is going to Baker. He's going to do what he did to lose the playoff game. He is going to fumble the ball or he's going to throw an interception at the least opportune moment.
You might be right.
You-
You might be right. But you know what? It's nice to win a playoff game. Right? You can't just be like, I hate this all or nothing thing. You're just going to be nothing forever.
I think in the NFL you're either playing for the Super Bowl.
It's not true.
Or
Who
else
would you
you're
rather
not.
have, Tony Romo or Baker Mayfield?
Tony Romo.
Why? Tony Romo's only won one playoff game.
Tony Romo
he
folded in big games.
He
Talk about-
fumbled in
Talk
the
about
biggest.
a choker.
I think
In the
I think
biggest
Tony
spots.
Romo has. I think Tony Romo was an S in skill.
I think Tony Romo was S in skill too.
Yeah, I do too.
More than Baker. I think Baker's an A.
I think he was. I think Tony Romo was more talented than.
Yeah, people
than,
realize.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I don't
he-
think.
he-
Would
For
you
sure
rather
is.
have Dak or Baker?
But
I'd rather have Dak. I just would.
I don't know about that.
they're close. I
They're
think
very close.
Dak's been hurt a few
I'd
times
take
though.
that.
But I'm also calling.
Take Dak.
I'd take
I'm also calling Dak an S tier quarterback too.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we were distinguishing between S's.
Yeah, we're not.
It's not.
supposed to,
It's not who's the Siest. He is an S tier quarterback. He belongs there
right now
with the
he
other
is,
S's.
yeah, the last 2 years he's been an S tier.
No, I'm agreeing. Baker is an S in fantasy production without a doubt.
You're not agreeing. You're agreeing to that. You're not agreeing that he's an
right,
S with
let's move
skill.
on.
I don't think he's an S in skill.
Well,
Let's move on.
there was a report though that he wanted them to draft Mbuka. So if you go out and you pick and use a first round pick on a receiver that the quarterback wanted, he's gonna have a great season with Mbuka.
I think I think you're right. People are sitting on this guy. This is a guy that if he had not played opposite Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jeremiah Smith, would have probably broken every Ohio State record, and he did break several records. But I think he could have been a guy that had 1,500 yards in college if it wasn't that their receiving core was so freaking good.
Yep, second best owner of that Alabama squad.
All right, Jay.
So sure now. All right, I'll go with Caleb Williams. I'll shoot him
Oh,
off the
We're
bat.
doing the North, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sorry, NFC North.
how does a new
15th
guy
last year.
get our divisions? What?
I'm trying to keep
this
it-
guy comes in and grabs the Browns and the Bears. What the hell?
I didn't want you to get the Browns.
I badmouthed the Browns, so it's the Bears' turn. He had 7 games under 10 points, 0 over 30, 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 picks. He was kind of a minuscule runner. They do have some decent receivers in DJ Moore. It was a little bit under 1,000, but he could easily do more. And they have a great running back with Swift, 6 touchdowns. I do think he'll be much better than this year. I think the schedule played out for him. I think the Vikings coming down a little. I think the Bears will come down. The Lions will be down a little. So I think he can make a solid jump. But I still have him in the B. I don't know if he's like – I still don't think he's going to be in that 30 touchdowns type of area. I think he could be 28, that type of area. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
You don't think so?
So wrong.
Speak ahead.
All right, wait, you ready for him to jump in?
Yeah, he just jump on in.
I think because you're going to go for a while. I think 8 more touchdowns makes sense. He was 20-6 last year. 3,500 yards. I could see him hitting 4,100 yards, around 4,000 and 8 more touchdowns. I think that's due. I think that's realistic.
Before Marcos.
Well, how much more? How many more touchdowns do you think? You can throw?
Hang on, before Marcos, because I think he's going to go off too.
Yeah, he's going to go crazy.
I think it's very possible that Jaden looks more like CJ in his second year, and Caleb looks more like. I think Caleb is taking a jump this year.
Yeah.
I think when you look at his actual body of work, there's no quarterback that sat behind a worse line. I think that they've worked on that and fixed it. I do think he has an above-average receiving core. I think he has a great tight end that they drafted, and not a bad one. That's number 2. I think they've got a decent running game. I think Caleb could get to that 28 to 32 touchdowns, 4,200 yards. Yeah,
sounds good.
6 interceptions behind that line is unreal, because what it tells me is a guy that actually held the ball, took to sack, or threw it out of bounds at an amazing pace for a rookie. He got I don't know.
Or a lot of
So
his
you
fumbles.
disagree with a B, or you? Because that's what I have as a B.
I think you've
think
got to
B is
rate him
fair.
as a B, but I think he has got A upside
Yeah,
this year.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
The fumbles, real quick, are those mostly in the pocket?
Yes. He took how many? 60-some
10.
sacks?
Ridiculous.
last year?
Sacks.
Yeah. It was
It
him.
was almost 70
him
sacks that
and
he
the
took last
I think
year.
it was Chicago and the Browns.
68 sacks.
Yeah, Chicago
Yeah,
and the
and
Browns. were
quarterback
the two.
pressures, he was well over 100.
I don't
It was
have that here,
it was
but I believe
absolutely ridiculous. So you hit a lot of the points that I was going to mention. So this offensive line is much improved, and this offense, the weapons that they added is built for passing. So they let go of the old guy. They let go of Keenan Allen. And I loved Keenan Allen. And he was the perfect receiver to have for a rookie quarterback last year, because he's a possession receiver that's no longer fast, but he's still high points, and he's a possession receiver. So I love how they broke Caleb into the league last year, aside from the nearly 70 sacks. This offensive line is going to give him time. He already does a great job of going through his progressions. Roma Dunze is the number 1 wide receiver 2 that you want to target very late in your drafts. You're going to be able to draft Roma Dunze as a wide receiver 4 in double flex leagues, and he's going to produce like a wide receiver 2 this year. You want Roma Dunze. He had nearly 1,000 yards last year. He said it is his mission. 1,000 is the lowest he'll go, is what he says. Caleb Williams is going to get this ball downfield a lot. You have DJ Moore. You have Roma Dunze. They brought in Luther Burden, who looks the part as well. DeAndre Swift, again, pass catching back. At times, he does have some suspect hands. And then the 2 tight ends that are great blocking tight ends, too, like you mentioned. They set this team up to pass. Caleb's baseline will be averaging 2 touchdowns per game. He's at least 34 touchdowns this year.
I think understated on the Bears, and something that will help him also. I think the line is better. I think Swift, people are sleeping on this guy.
They always do.
I got to the playoffs in one of my leagues because of DeAndre Swift. I think he's going to be better this year behind a better line.
The only thing that ever worries me with Swift is the injury stuff.
Yeah.
Odunze's ADP is 83 right now per Fantasy Pros.
Yeah.
So where's he going amongst wide receivers then? The
He was
83.
700 yards, 3 touchdowns last last year.
Yeah, the only thing is, like, what scares me is what scares me in Tampa.
Yep.
You brought in Burden, you brought in another wide receiver. Tampa brought in a Mecca. I just don't see how that all works. So, like, I think somebody loses, a good receiver loses out, and that's my fear about.
Here's what worries me, though. He had 101 targets. This is a Dunze. And 54 receptions.
But a lot of them are not catchable.
As the wide receiver 3, though, that's what's crazy about
The
that
targets
stat.
are great, but why is the catch rate so low?
A lot of them
that
were
is one
uncatchable.
area.
He's not a dropper. I think he dropped
Caleb
one ball
struggled
last year.
some again, but also he was behind a terrible makeshift line.
Yeah.
He was just trying to make something happen. That's why I was shocked he only had 6 interceptions.
Well, I think he holds on the ball. I was
He
watching
does.
another podcast video, and they had
Yeah, he does.
he had one of the worst ratios of holding onto the ball too long
Yeah.
to take those sacks.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah,
didn't throw
and he
picks.
did.
Yeah.
So you're saying A tier
yeah.
on his second season right out of the gate.
Yes.
And now we'll throw it Jared Goff. Last year, 4,600, 37 touchdowns, 12 picks. He was number 6 overall. He had 3 games under 10, but 1 over 30. He is 30 years old. The running backs there are really solid. So I don't know if that's going to play in a part of him. He does have Amon St. Brown, Rama.
Amon-Ra.
Ra. Williams. I mean, you get 2 guys over 1,000 yards.
Does he
each.
have Williams, though? Isn't he suspended again?
What?
No, I think he was suspended for 1 game last year. But that is the knock.
I thought there was something else happened.
Probably. I
He
wouldn't
got
doubt
arrested,
it.
I thought.
I would not doubt it.
I'm looking it up. Keep talking. I'll look it up.
Okay. And then Laporta, tight end, 7 touchdowns for him. So it's still wide open to be able to throw. The defense is going to get you the ball. They love making turnovers. It's give them short field. They'll be healthy overall in the whole team. I think he's an A tier. I don't see him being one of those top 5s, but he's going to be 6 to 10. If anything drops off, at worst, you're still getting 32 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards. So I still think he's a solid A.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I do too. I think Goff's got like the highest floor of almost any quarterback coming back this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The biggest problem is keeping Jamison Williams on the field. That is honestly the biggest.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything. I mean, I don't know where I saw
I
he got
didn't think
arrested.
that he was suspended.
No, he's
And
not.
I mean, everybody keeps talking about him taking that step forward, but
He's still immature.
he is immature, and I think that was why, even though he had the talent, Ohio State thought it was okay that he left for Alabama, because I think when he was in a room full of men, he showed himself to be a boy.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan Love. I think he's a C. I think he's a forcer. 11 interceptions, 25 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs is gonna just be fed the ball, especially when it gets colder. He had a massive year, 15 touchdowns. Their top receiver,
Massive.
Jaden Reed,
Do they have a top receiver?
900 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean,
They've
you
got-
kind of had to throw somebody the ball. So
They've
Well,
got
it's just it's too many to
they've
throw.
got 5 1Bs.
they
You
did
know,
draft 2 receivers. I think one could be a really solid Savian. Golden, I think, was taken a little high, kind of overrated. But at least you got 2 brand new targets if he can get a rapport. Tight end Kraft had a great year, 700 for 7 touchdowns. So he likes to use his outlet. He's got 1 pass catcher. But once the weather gets cold, I think they're just going to run the ball. And so I have to have him in the C.
It's funny. I thought I sent it to you guys. I saw the greatest meme the other day. It was a shot of Golden dropping the ball, and they said, "Oh, look, Green Bay spent a first-round pick on another wide receiver 3 to complement all the other wide receiver 4s in the room."
he's
Ridiculous.
the guy that I he got drafted that high because of his speed. But both Jay and I watched the Ohio State Buckeyes beat Notre Dame, and I didn't see the separation for that much speed. I didn't see the superior route running to actually do the cuts and get open. I don't know. Like, he's interesting. And Love is a guy that surprises me. People are so high on him, and I don't know that
he
I've
could
seen.
get really hot though.
He can get really hot,
I
yeah.
think that's what it is.
Yeah.
He could play really
when
well.
he started
and
really
bad.
well last year, I believe, came out of the gates
Highs
like
and lows.
Yeah.
He only had 2 over 20 points.
Well, then why did it seem like he was on fire early in the
I
year?
don't know. You're the one who said it. Back it up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna look at it.
He has what's always appealing in Green Bay is that they are historically a passing franchise.
Yep.
And because of that, you get locked into, all right, they're going to continue to pass and look at all of these receivers. And for whatever reason, the majority of these receivers come off the board right around when you're drafting that wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
So you see Golden go there, you see Reed go there, you see Dobbs go there. A little bit further down is Wicks. I haven't seen Christian Watson drafted at all this year because he's going to be injured for, I think, a portion of the season. But and then Kraft gets drafted probably around middle of the pack.
And there's
tight ends
another
right now,
tight
too.
end that was injured last year. Came back toward the end. For a while, there was a 1-2 punch at tight end, but I'm blanking on his name.
Where for who?
Green Bay.
Oh, it was another white guy. Yeah.
Yes.
They're very similar.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the fact that they're
Kraft
white.
and Croft, I think.
They have that.
No.
I think that it's going to be interesting coming out of camp to see, because there's a lot of talk about this could be the year that Watson gets traded or another guy gets traded or somebody gets cut
Somebody's
because
getting traded. They got too many wide receivers.
they got too many wide receivers.
So I think I know what he was hurt for week 2 and week 3, but his first 5 games of the season he threw 15 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's like 3 a game.
Yeah, he came out pretty
Thanks for the
hot.
math.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was that. I think that's what it was. And then he had 2 weeks, nothing, bye week, and then it was kind of up and down after that. Whoopsie, sorry.
And he is, I mean, he's going way down the board too. Jordan Love is being drafted as the QB2 right now.
109, yeah, ADP.
And like
109.
towards the tail end of QB2s as well.
Then lastly, I got one of the worst quarterbacks that ever won a national championship with an asterisk, J.J. McCarthy.
Oh wow.
IR all last year. I mean, even preseason was game 1.
He's the greatest preseason quarterback ever, I think.
I'm sure he probably sucked at that too. His backup, Sam Howell. So I think if he's struggling, I think they put in Sam Howell. I don't think Sam Howell's got at least experience. So JJ, he's got weapons. Obviously, Darnold used all of them to his benefit last year. Solid tight end, not a lot of touchdown producing, but he's a good receiver. You got Justin Jefferson. He's got the weapons to do it if he can actually. But he, at that college up north, he never really threw deep balls. He liked to roll with the running game, set up play action, throw across the middle, let the receivers do, 15, 20 yards. Let them do what they do.
Doesn't mean he can't do it.
He can't do it.
It's going to be. I mean,
do we all think
I'm
that?
trying not to be biased. I honestly,
You're doing a terrible job at it.
it's a strategic bet, and I was surprised at Minnesota. Minnesota was 14-2, like you said. They were
Fraudulent.
maybe fraudulent, but still like an incredible amount of hope and expectations
Well, they see him. They see
in
him.
JJ. How long did they see him? They saw him in.
Seen him long enough to get rid of Darnold.
They saw him in camp, and they saw him in one preseason game. To me, they could be right, and JJ could be something pretty special. Having watched a lot of Big Ten football, he never looked special. He looked competent in every game I
Let
saw.
me ask you this, right? We think what's his funny face in Minnesota is a good coach, right?
Yeah.
You kind of trust what he did the year before Darnold, just kind of getting anybody off the street, having him play well. We know that Harbaugh came to the Chargers and basically dumbed down Justin Herbert, right? I think it's a style of coaching, which, he might suck. But
I don't think he's going to suck.
But to be fair, just because that system they ran in college is what it is, I don't think that means that he can't do the other things.
No, but
I
I
don't think
think
you could say that.
No, but I think what it is
I know.
is-
Well,
but-
I don't think you can say that and look smart.
But we didn't see it.
Oh, I look smart.
That's fine.
Yeah. Now, he's
but
an
we
O-
did see Harbaugh.
He's an Ohio
bring that
kid.
system to the NFL and kind of what he did. The same thing he did to Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Although he made Alex Smith play better, but
He's an Ohio kid, so I want to see him succeed. He grew up being an Ohio State fan, turned to the dark side. So, I don't wish ill on the kid. But I'm just there was nobody more surprised than me that Minnesota didn't re-up somehow with Sam, because I think he might have stayed for a lesser maybe not. Maybe he wouldn't have. But like you said, he had already made money. So,
I don't think he would stay for less.
He would have
Maybe gotta
stayed.
cash in.
well, I think he wants to start.
I mean,
But, I mean, if they
championship
believe in
game,
him-
he had 140 yards passing in the championship game.
I don't care about that.
Against Penn State his senior year, they didn't even throw the ball the entire second half
Yeah.
of the game.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence looked like Peyton Manning in college, and he sucks now.
Well, and he might look like Peyton Manning again.
Yeah, I just
No, he
I don't
would
think
never.
college always correlate. I know. I'm
But
just
when you play,
overstated, but
he did play tough competition. They did because back then they didn't have Oregon, so he had to play the Ohio State, Penn State,
who are you talking about?
Michigan.
JJ.
JJ.
Okay.
What did
College.
you rate him as a?
I think based
didn't
on what
yet.
he's got, I think he's got to be tops a D, more likely an F.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That
that's
is nuts.
crazy, yeah.
So
I gotta say, I think
what I will tell you is there's
what would-
I
what
mean,
would
at
you-
least a D.
what would
Maybe
you
that.
take
No,
him
I-
in
I think
if
he's got a
in all the
BC.
quarterbacks.
I think he's
he
gotta
is
be
my
C.
number one quarterback flyer this year. I
Yeah,
think
but
what
what round are
scares
you taking
people.
him
Look
in?
what's around them.
But
I don't want to
but,
look around.
but what round are you taking him?
Taking him late. I'm taking him as my third quarterback, but I'm getting him there.
Yeah,
The
and you're
reason
hoping
being,
for the upside.
The reason being is that what's scary is out of everybody, he doesn't really have a floor. That's what's scaring people is because we don't know what we're getting with the floor. I'll tell you what you could get with the ceiling. You could get a goddamn quarterback one with the
You could
ceiling.
get
You
Sam
could get
Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
You could get an
Yeah, you could get
absolute
Sam
stud
Darnold.
with that
What?
weapony
What are you saying under your breath over there?
with the weapons that
Yeah. You could get Sam
team
Darnold. You could get
possesses.
4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns. You could get all that. Yeah.
And let's not forget, Hawkinson is fully healthy this year. Hawkinson, when he came back from injury, looked amazing within
Looked
2 to
so
3
good.
weeks.
Who are their running
So
backs?
good.
Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, who they brought over
Yeah.
from
Jordan
San
Mason,
Fran.
I think, has some skill, and I think Aaron is a decent
He's
still back.
still, he is
Yeah.
still good.
Playing Detroit twice, playing the Bears, who's much improved defense.
Well, their defense is
playing
strong.
the Packers, solid defense. I don't have much hope.
We can tell.
Well, there is going to be there's going to be a learning curve. I mean, the guy. So no quarterback
He looked
ever.
great in preseason.
No quarterback drafted in the first round threw fewer passes in college than JJ, and that is like no matter what you want to say.
No,
that's
Mitch
true.
Trubisky, I think, had less, right?
So it's per number of starts
There we
is
go.
is what I'm saying. JJ started 2 full seasons and part of another, and in 2.5 seasons of college football, amassed so few passing attempts. It was crazy, and part of that is Michigan's system.
I just don't know how much of it is. That's
We said he's your QB3, so if you do a 12-man league, 24, so he's nearest to the 30s, in your opinion, of quarterbacks.
Well, I'm getting him earlier than a lot of guys are getting their QB3, so probably
So
closer
you're taking a flyer a little bit earlier.
to 25. And I'm also getting him as a third quarterback before a lot of guys go out and get their second, too, sometimes. But that's only because of the drafting style that I have. I go so up front. I'm very running back and wide receiver heavy that I have to cover myself in best ball leagues with quarterbacks towards the end. So what I've actually been ending up with is somewhere around like round, God, where do I get them? 9, 10. I end up with usually Caleb Williams. I usually end up with, I come back almost immediately and get like a Dak Prescott, which is crazy because that's where he's going right now. And then I'll follow it up a few rounds later with JJ as my third rostered quarterback.
Well, you changed my mind. JJ Asterisk, a D. Solid D.
All right, guys. Well, that is the show. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when we're putting up a new episode. Go to all the socials. Follow at GON Podcast. We are upping our posting, right, guys? Right. So you catch a bunch of content there. Get some of our opinions on breaking news, which you're going to be doing more of, and really get locked in during training camp season.
May I interrupt?
You can.
For breaking news. So J.K. Dobbins signed with Broncos.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, this
wow.
happened?
Yeah.
Wow.
So how much of an improvement does that make them? And that definitely probably makes Jacksonville's trade off the table.
Yes.
So
Let me.
they're already a playoff team in all of our.
While we're interrupting,
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
where does Keenan sign, and why hasn't he signed? Because like I'm looking at the Browns signed Deontay Johnson.
Because he doesn't want to take a vet minimum contract.
Is that what it is? Because like to me, I was like Deontay can't even show up to not mandatory, but
okay.
OTAs. Like I'm hoping he's going to show up to mandatory.
Yeah.
My prediction, Rams come out of the gate, struggle just a little bit.
And they
and need a third wide receiver, and Keenan signs on with a team that's got Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Matt Stafford at quarterback.
What I love about Keenan is he still is a good route runner. Fat guy. He gained some weight, but he's a good route runner.
He's a bully though, wide receiver.
Yeah.
And he was leaving people on their heels last year around the goal line. Great route runner. Yeah. Since we're
All right, so anywhere you listen to podcasts,
Hey,
add GOM
help us out.
Podcast on Apple Music. You're looking for Guys on Draft. And this show, Guys on Sports. Let us know what you think. We love you.
See you.